Oh, hello and welcome back, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. Welcome to the Rise Podcast, episode 5. So I know I haven't posted one of these in a long time. However, I recently did a podcast with two of my close friends, Drew and Ed, and I've been loving listening to podcasts. I'm sure if you watch my YouTube, you notice anytime I'm eating food, anytime I've got a bit of spare time, I'm always listening to whether they're educational podcasts, bodybuilding podcasts, funny podcasts, wherever it is, and I absolutely love them. So I want to get back into it. And one of my goals for 2026, which I listed down a lot of my goals yesterday that I've set myself for 2026, which I recommend a lot of you to do as well, is list your goals down. But one of them was to find like a permanent co-host or someone to host alongside me. I don't want to treat him as a co-host, right? It would be a thing that we do together because, well, first and foremost, I'd want to make sure that I get along with them. We've got a lot of things in common. Ideally, I'd want them to, be in the same space, but I don't want to like just randomly message someone, hey, do you want to be a co-host? I want this thing to happen naturally and just carry on doing it. And if it happens, it happens. But that's sort of the goals going forward with this podcast. But this one here is just going to be a general catch up because a lot has happened since I last posted the actual last podcast. I've got a nice little decaf coffee here, got my phone here because I put up a Q&A. I only got a few questions, which I didn't expect many anyway, but this will be more of a little yap whilst drinking my decaf coffee. Oh, still boiling hot. I've got a little bit of a different setup. So I've got this sort of light here and I'm sitting in the living room area of my flat. I promise you, I did not put those there on purpose so they could be in the podcast. The PCA trophy and the overall sword, they are just there. They've been there since I've moved in. So I know it sounds weird now, especially that I've said it. But anyway, let's get straight into it. So a lot has changed. Like if you may or may not have known, I am now enhanced because a lot of you do know me as a natural bodybuilder, right? Someone who competes as a natural bodybuilder. Is all about being natural, and I'm actually taking a step forward to be enhanced. Maybe not a step forward or just a step in a different direction. And that was one, to see what I'm capable for, a lot of curiosity in how far I can take things in the enhanced side of things especially. And yeah, that's pretty much the reasons why, right? I definitely do want to compete again, especially whilst being enhanced, see what I'm capable of, see if I'm capable of becoming an IFBB pro. Who knows, right? That's a long-term goal. Because I'm not doing this just for the fun of it. I'm doing it to achieve some cool things and really prove myself wrong. I think that's another thing of it. And I've started with a new coach, so Tim Physique Pro, Tim Stewart. And some of you may know who he is, so I've started with him. Obviously, still my own coach as well, or I do my own coaching, MJ Performance Coaching, which is going fantastic. Absolutely amazing, the best it's ever been, matter of fact, and still posting my YouTube, all these different things. But at the moment, I'm in an off season. Hypothetically, you could say I've been in one, or theoretically, you could say I've been in one since June the 29th, as soon as I stepped off of stage. So, it's coming up to 5 months in an off season, but I kept quite lean throughout the whole period before I became enhanced, and I was a bit too scared to go into an off season. And that's one thing I can definitely discuss, where I was almost like, I said this in this previous podcast I was in, I really did attribute my success in my coaching, my success in everything I'm doing based off of what I looked like, me being a natural bodybuilder and doing well in my competitions. And I really stuck to that in regards to, I wanted to stay as lean as possible post-show, which wasn't good because I wasn't getting healthy. I wasn't focusing on my sleep, my psychological state, all these different things. And for a long time, I stayed like that. It was like 3 months. And then eventually I became enhanced, went into an actual off season, even though I have been slowly putting on weight throughout that time period anyway. But I've been with Tim for over 8 weeks now. I've got my first bloods on Tuesday, so 2 days time. Today's Sunday when I'm filming this. Maybe I'll upload it today or tomorrow, I'm not too sure. But that's like a very quick rundown of how things are happening. I stepped off of stage at 71.2 kilograms. I started with Tim at 77, I believe. And now the most I weighed was 85.5, but I'm actually in the midst of how many day deload? Well, 5 day deload, but I'm like 3 days in. And I'm down to 82.6. So I've lost a lot of weight, and I think I was holding on to a hell of a lot of fatigue. My lips are so dry, I'm getting a bit ill if you can't tell by my voice, which isn't good. This deload was definitely needed. His sniffly nose as well. God, I apologise if this podcast is a bit of a disgusting one. But yeah, I'm excited to get my bloods done. It's been really nice having some time off of the gym as well. I really needed it mentally and physically. My body was battered. And I got a question as well from one of my clients. Is like, how do you know when you need a deload? And you know, the things that I look out for, especially in myself, is how is my sleep? How's my training performance? Is it suffering there? Am I feeling psychologically exhausted within my sessions? Do I not have that drive towards the sessions? Am I getting weaker within my sessions? Is my sleep broken? Am I waking up multiple times throughout the night? Is it harder for me to fall asleep? Is my digestion worse? Am I noticing I'm getting a lot more stressed? Am I noticing my muscles are a lot more achy, right? A lot more painful? Am I getting ill? Like, all these different things are a sign of a deload. And I had those signs for a good bit of time, but I was putting it off. This is something that I need to work on, become better at communicating with my coach, which is something that I preach a lot to my clients as well. And the benefits of having a deload: one, psychologically, it gives you a bit of a break, right? We all know whenever you take a bit of a break from the gym. So like for me, after this 5 days, I'm going to be to the point where I'm revving to go back into the gym. I'm motivated, like very, very motivated to go back in and push myself. And this is one of the topics on the podcast I'll go into as well, is motivation and discipline. But I'm going to be very excited to go back in, push myself again and train harder than I ever have before. Just keep going and going and going. But then also my body's going to have a bit of a rest, okay, because it needs it. It's really, really so I can carry on progressing. And sometimes it's okay to take a step back, to take 2 steps forward, because if I carried on going and I carried on pushing, well, all those training sessions where I'm murdering myself in the gym and going as hard as I can and have an awful night's sleep, you think I'm making any progression from that? No, I'm only regressing. So it's important to be able to take a step back, even if you really don't want to, even if you are obsessed with the gym. And I know some of my clients really struggle with that. When I'm like, right, it's time for a bit of a deload, taking a few days off, they find it hard. But all the time when they come back from the deload, we slowly taper them back into the training. They feel a million times better. And you know, you can have another 8, 12 productive weeks of growing and improving, whether that's in the dieting phase as well, or an off season, whatever the case is. And when you take a deload really does depend, because some people, don't train as intense as others. And if you're going balls to the wall every single session, like going till absolute failure on everything but past failure, right? You're forcing reps. You're going to need more deloads than other people. Whereas if you're smart with your training, you train, focusing on your stimulus rather than progressive overload, which both of them are very important, but I'll also get into this, then, your deloads can be a lot more periodized. You can be a lot more smart with them. It's not like you need to have one every 4 weeks, right? You don't want to be taking time off of the gym that often. But then on the other hand, there might be someone who never trains to failure, never pushes themselves as hard as they need to, and they might never need a deload, right? Because they're never really battering their body. And it all depends on the person. And that's another thing where when I'm working with new clients, the most important thing within the first couple of weeks is setting a baseline, right? Making sure training is on point, making sure structure is on point, sleep's on point, making sure that they are eating their food correctly, right? Are they tracking it correctly with the meal plan I give them? Are they weighing things out? Are they doing it raw weight? Small little things like that. And what I've noticed throughout my coaching experience as well, through coaching clients, is a lot of people expect like massive changes, right? But the issue is one, people can get extremely overwhelmed very, very quickly, right? Depending on their experience levels. But 2, oftentimes the smallest changes have the biggest impacts, and you can incrementally build those up so it becomes a habit within one's routine or one's structure. And I've noticed that makes a massive difference, where someone might start and the first thing I do is, right, let's figure out their baseline expenditure, right? I give them a baseline target. If they're not hitting that, right, first week, we're making sure we're doing our cardio, right? Every single week, no missing sessions. We're making sure sleep's on point next week. We're making sure that, right, send me a photo of your food every single week so I can make sure it looks about right? Are you using any oils when I've told you not to? Are you using high calorie sources? Are you using sugar in your coffees? Are you using full fat milk in your coffees when I haven't put it down on the plan? Small little things like that, identifying the small things that most people don't know you shouldn't be doing, right? If you want to progress in your physique development goals. And then like another thing that I always do at the start is obviously training, right? Making sure someone's sending me training footage as often as possible so I can make small little tweaks. And this goes perfectly onto the first like proper segment of this podcast that I wanted to discuss, is stimulus or progressive overstimulus is way, way, way more important than progressive overload, in my opinion, okay? I think I've fallen into this trap before. Just need a quick sip of coffee. My lips are getting so dry. I've definitely fallen into the trap before where I focused way too much on the amount of weight I was lifting, right? Seeing people like trained by JP, right? Insanely strong, seeing all these incredibly strong bodybuilders who, you know, rip weights about and just throw them about and, you know, gain muscle so quickly, it seems like it anyway, right? But where a lot of people make mistakes, you know, especially as natural, even as enhanced athletes, I've noticed this as well, is no one has a standardized sort of set form, okay? And what I mean by that is, let me give you a few examples. I've had this conversation with multiple clients recently, which is a good thing. I'm happy I can have these conversations, and I'm happy they can be honest with me so I can pick up on these things. Because if I didn't ask about training, if I didn't get training footage, I'd never be able to identify these things and notice the small tweaks that can have the biggest impact. So essentially, like, let's say someone goes in for an incline dumbbell press, right? And they do 30 kilograms for 8 reps 1 week. That was one of their sets, right? Next week, based on their logbook, based on tracking, okay, they're gonna look at that and think, I wanna do more, okay? I hit the top of my rep range, which was, let's say 6 to 8. I wanna go up in weight, right? And they might get a bit ambitious and do 32.5 or 35, which is fine, right? But then they want to stay within that rep range, okay? Or they might say, I want to hit it for 8. I want to like keep progressing every single week. I should be progressing because I'm in an off season, right? I need to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And what happens is they might hit 35 for 8 again, okay? And they're like, hell yeah, I hit 35 for 8. But what they might have subconsciously done, or, you know, done without realizing, is let their form slip, right? Control might have been a hell of a lot worse, okay? They might have been a lot quicker, no control on the eccentric. There's no sort of micro pauses in the shortened position, or the lengthened position, I should say. They're not actually creating as much muscular tension and as much muscular stimulus to create the most growth through that given exercise on the targeted muscle group. And that 35 for 8 reps might have been just as effective as if they were doing 20 for 8 reps. But last week they did 30 for 8 with perfect form, great control, great micro pauses. Right, I'm a big fan of micro pauses, if you haven't noticed, just because of like switching the movement, the actual, say, from the eccentric to the concentric part of the movement. But that's another topic which I can really dive into later on. But they just won't be getting as much out of it because progression isn't always about weight, okay? What I'm saying by that is sometimes people can choose to go heavier when it probably isn't the best idea, or they go heavier and they notice they've done less reps or the form is worse, but they don't want to regress. They don't want to go back to what they were doing before. But there is a different type of progression that isn't progressive overload, which I think is way more important, and that's progressive over stimulus. And what I mean by that is creating more stimulus. And stimulus is what leads to muscle growth on a targeted muscle group. And stimulus is essentially that tension that you're creating through the muscle group. Let me ask you here, like, what do you think is gonna create more stimulus, right? 30 kilograms, moving it like this, right? Really slow and controlled. Pause in, and then up at the top, okay, and squeezing nice and hard and keeping it going, right? Or someone who's got 30 kilogram dumbbells and is just letting it fly down and bounce back up, fly down and bounce back up, right? Obviously, you can tell the first one's gonna create a hell of a lot more stimulus, hell of a lot more muscle growth, okay? But what can happen is 1 week, someone might do that 30 kilogram for 8, right? The next week, they might do 30 kilograms for 8 as well, okay? But that's where progressive overstimulus comes in, where they didn't realize that they actually did progress because maybe they controlled it a little bit more. Their execution of the movement, the accuracy of the movement, the setup of the movement, their mindset in the movement has significantly improved from the previous week. Therefore, more stimulus is being created, leading to more muscle growth. Weight does not always lead to more progression, okay? And the reason I say this is because, one, sometimes people will jump up way too high, let their form slip, they're making way less progression, okay? Right, I've been massively guilty of that before. where I think I'm lifting more and making more progression, I'm not. But then also it can lead to more injuries, right? I've had clients, recently even, where they might just be wanting to progress every single week, okay? And this isn't me, having a go at you guys if you're listening to this. It's more of the fact that this is important that we realize it and we can change it, where every single week they're wanting to bump up their weights, which they have been doing, but they've been letting their form slip. And then the next week, their joints are really sore and they're wondering why. And, things don't feel as good and they're starting to feel a bit battered. And, the sessions aren't creating as good pumps, like all these different things. So, progressive overstimulus should always be at the priority, okay, of your training focus. And then progressive overload should be next from that, at least in my opinion. And if you continuously keep your form standardized, okay, never let that slip. Now, nearer to the end of sets when you're picking up new weights, maybe it will a little bit, but if you're not doing it purposefully, it's fine, right? And then you build up your weight from there, never letting that slip, always keeping it standardized, always keeping the accuracy, the execution perfect, then you will see inevitable growth, okay? So that's what I wanted to say on that. I'm gonna quickly blow my nose and I will be back in just a moment. I hope I remember to cut the ending part of that out because I couldn't find out how to stop the recording because my mic was a bit tangled up in my t-shirt. But anyway, we are back, another sip of coffee going in. Man, I hope I get better soon because I feel rubbish at the moment. Like I hope by the end of this deload, I feel good again because hey, I love training. I wanna progress. Like, one thing as well, I think I want to compete in 2027. I don't think I can take like a 2-year break. And also it's just going to be the fact that I want to see what I've done within a year or a year and a bit of a proper off season and see where I need to improve. But also very exciting stuff, just like a little personal update. Got a lot of clients competing next year. I think 6 or 7, which is super, super exciting, and more inquiring to compete, which is amazing. And another thing is a lot of people right now are inquiring like lifestyle coaching, which I absolutely bloody love as well. Like being able to change someone's physical, like, how do I say this? Physical life. Yeah, I guess their physical life, their physique development, and also their mental development and their mentality and discipline towards things is such a cool thing. Achieving things that they didn't know they were capable of. That's why I love lifestyle coaching as well, and I will never ever ever stop it. But a lot of people inquiring now, right? It's coming up to Christmas, and you'd expect no one to be inquiring coming up to Christmas because it's New Year, New Me. That's when a lot of people are going to inquire. But I've had so many coming in now, which is amazing because they're going to give it their all leading up into Christmas. But then the most exciting part is they're giving themselves a bit of a head start, right? Which is sick, okay? Because a lot of people, this is their first time going into a physique development journey and they don't know what to expect. And the more they put it off, maybe the less results they'll get. You can look at it that way. But then the people going into it now who are going to have a head start on all the people starting in New Year's is pretty cool and it's exciting, and they're committed, they really want to make a change. So that excites the living hell out of me, and a lot of people inquiring before they even want to look at starting a prep to go through an improvement phase of myself so I can really get to know them. We can make as much progression as possible. Absolutely love it, which is super exciting. But so good. I'm an addict to decaf coffee. If you haven't watched any of my normal videos, you know. If you know, you know. But now, what I want to go into is mentality, discipline within the gym, okay? Because this is a very, very important topic, which once again took a long time for me to develop, and I'm still developing it. I'm still developing everything within my physique development journey. I think it's stupid to assume that you know everything and you can't improve, right? Given, for example, coaching as well, right? I know I'm relaying back to coaching. It's because it's my job, right? It's my passion. But I have had some amazing transformations, right? I've had a great prep client. I've had a lot of success within coaching, and I could sit there and feel like, yeah, well, I've had no bad things occur. Like I only see nothing but good results, and that's fine, right? I'm in a good position there. However, I always seek out to learn more from people who I know are better than me, okay? But then always, just because I know there's room for improvement, no matter how much I know, you want to keep on top of the times. And I want to provide the best service for all of my clients 24/7. Hence why, like, I signed up to Pro IQ, right? It was a pretty big investment, but I want to make sure I'm constantly learning. I'm learning new ways to work with my clients, create better results, create a better time, and work with different types of people, right? female physiology, that's one thing I'm working on, so I can work with more females, right? Because it's a very complicated topic. I'm going through a whole performance enhancing drugs course, right? Because I want to work with more people who want to go down the enhanced route side of things, so I can be more comfortable, right? Learning more about nutrition, learning more about training. I'm doing all these courses to constantly better myself, because I think the worst thing that you can do is stay stagnant and not want to improve. But anyway, that leads perfectly into development, right? Into physique development, where a lot of people, which I think there is sometimes a bad misconception towards coaching is like a magic pill, where it really isn't, okay? And what I mean by that is coaching, one, at least the way that I do it, is a partnership, right? It's not a dictatorship where I tell you exactly what to do, because then that leads to a hell of a lot of burnout and very low enjoyment, because my idea of something that might be fun could be completely different to your idea, and then I wouldn't be taking into account your personal life, all these different things, right? So that's a very important thing. Someone might have a wife, kids, someone might work a very busy job, someone might not have the availability to meal prep, or some days of the week they might need to go to the shop and buy a meal deal here and there. I need to be able to program for those things, and that's okay, right? That's not an issue. Now, leading on from that, where was my train of thought? Bloody hell. Right, yeah, coaching is not a magic pill. A lot of people think that joining a coach, right, that sort of partnership side of things, is that just because they've joined a coach, they're going to get results like that. Everything's going to change magically. But what you do not realize is some best results you see through coaches and clients, right? Some of the results you've seen of myself, it requires unwavering dedication and unwavering consistency, relentless amounts of work to achieve those results, not only from myself, but most importantly from the client, right? I could give the most perfect plan that fits someone perfectly, and they might tell me they're following it, but secretly they're not, right? That's an issue. That's where they've got to communicate with me so I can change it, so I can make it easier for them to follow. But then also knowing that there will be challenges along the journey, right? How can you expect a change? How can you expect to be better if you aren't willing to go through something uncomfortable? Name one time in your life where something drastic has happened and you've changed for the better, where maybe you weren't comfortable at first, right? I bring it back to starting new jobs or getting a promotion. Nearer to the start of it, you're never going to be comfortable, right? You're going to think, what am I doing? Like, how do I do this? How am I eventually going to be really good at this? Like those people that do it like with their eyes closed, like seeing the top bodybuilders where they meal prep and they eat their meals every single day. They don't miss their cardio. They don't miss their steps. They train. Like, how do they do that without feeling rubbish, right? Every single one of us has felt that bit of uncomfortableness nearer to the beginning. And it's about saying to yourself and having that discipline to go forward, because otherwise you will see no change, right? It's what sometimes annoys me, where someone is not willing to change just a little bit and slowly, incrementally implement those changes to become a better version of yourself. Why would you ever want to create or actively stop yourself from improving, where you look at your physique, you're not happy with where you're at, you don't feel confident, you feel shit, you feel depressed, right? I have been in that position as well, and I have had many clients in that position, and I don't want this to sound harsh, but sometimes you need to hear the harsh reality. It's like you just need to say to yourself, I am actually going to commit for once, right? I'm gonna make the differences that I've always wanted to make, no matter how shit I feel about it, because otherwise, I promise you, you're gonna be stuck in that loop forever. You just will be. You will never make those changes you've always wanted to make, right? Whether you want to become more attractive for females, whether you want to become more attractive for yourself, right? Be more comfortable with yourself. Look in the mirror, be happy. Know that, you didn't eat fast food for the first time in a week, right? Or you didn't drink alcohol for the first time in years, right? I have clients who, I'm not going to say who, but who was an alcoholic before he joined me. And now he is almost 3 months completely sober, no off-plan meals, has lost like over 15 kilos, looks like a completely drastically different person. And then look at the position he's in now. He feels a million times better. Do you think it was easy for him at the start to give up all those things he's been used to his whole life? No, obviously not. And that's where a lot of people realize that being comfortable is the easy option, something you've been doing your whole life. It's become easy for you, right? Because you're used to it. And to get used to something else, it will be uncomfortable at first, but it will be comfortable, right? And let me give you an example of this delayed gratification, which is another massive thing I preach, right? Because no one is willing to suffer in the short term, be uncomfortable to get that gratification, to get that satisfaction that they've always wanted, to achieve something they've always dreamt of, knowing it just requires that short bit of uncomfortableness. It annoys me sometimes. Not annoys me because of like the client, like who might be telling me like things are hard. That's fine. I am there to support you for that. That is my job. But more of the fact that they're just not willing to give it a go, or they do not know what they're capable of if they were just uncomfortable for that short period of time. Now, obviously uncomfortableness can be reduced to a significant amount, right? You can make it a lot easier, but that big change will always have a slight bit of an uncomfortable feeling to it. But let's give an example of someone who's never dieted or never gotten lean before, right? The initial challenges of it is your food is probably gonna get really low, right? Your cardio is probably gonna get relatively high. Not for all people, but for some people it will. But let's just say you were consistent with it from anywhere from 12 to 20 weeks, whatever it is, that initial fat loss phase or a priming phase, whatever you wanna call it, where for the first time you do get lean. Guess what? Your food will get low. Your cardio will probably get high. You'll probably feel pretty shitty, right? But if you've got a coach there to guide you, especially, right, you can do it yourself, but having a coach there to guide you to implement things like refeeds, diet breaks, high days, knowing when to pull back, when to push forward, right? These are all very important things to take into account, not only for your body to be more responsive, but also for your psychological state. Very important. And that's all through data-driven analytics, right? Making sure you're making the right decision, communication with your clients, knowing how they feel. But after you go through that initial fat loss phase, however long it takes, right? Once I get that client to that phase, this is where a reverse comes in, right? Where you incrementally build up your calories. And this is only for lifestyle, because if you're going for a prep, you go into a recovery diet. It's a completely different type of a topic, which I've spoken about before. I've made videos on it. But once you go through that reverse diet, where you essentially incrementally build up your calories, and by the way, you go through the reverse diet, because think about it, 20 weeks you've been dieting, right? You're putting your body in starvation mode, right? And evolution has instilled in us that, you know, cavemen, right? They wouldn't eat for a couple of days. And then when they would find some food, okay, they hunt and they killed something, right? Their body would tell them to eat as much of it as possible, because they are in starvation mode, and store as much of it as possible as fat, okay? Because fat is stored energy, so they can go another week without eating anything because they've got all that stored fat in their body to use as energy. And your body does not know the difference of whether it's a caveman now or not. It has no idea, okay? So once you've gone through that initial diet, your body, every single bit of ounce of food it eats, it wants to store as fat as quickly as possible. So if I put someone 500 calories above their maintenance right off the bat of the dieting phase, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna store fat like that, okay? So this is where your body's metabolism has adapted throughout the diet. It's gone down and down and down and down, right? That's why you always need to reduce calories or increase expenditure to keep below that metabolism set point, right? And don't get me wrong, this is where diet breaks, high days, refeed days come into play to kind of reboost that metabolism, so you've got a bit of a head run again and you can keep pushing at a certain level before you need to decrease. But essentially what happens is during that reverse, okay, you need to rebuild that metabolism because it's all-time low, okay? And the way that you do that is you slowly build up your calories, okay? So let's say initially I will always put someone roughly to maintenance calories, whatever the data says their maintenance calories are, okay? Just to get them feeling good. I'll probably give a little bit of a reduction in expenditure, and guess what? They will have a bit of a bump up in weight, and that's mainly through glycogen stores, a bit more food, okay? Training a bit harder, maybe creating a bit more fatigue out of that. But then oftentimes what I will notice is people will lose even more fat, get even leaner, maybe drop an extra bit of body weight just because I have increased their food. Fatigue has maybe even dropped off, or their sleep's gone better. Maybe they're a bit more energetic towards their steps and their cardio. So oftentimes that can happen too. But you know, if you've got any questions on that, of course I can discuss it as well. But what will happen is then, right, so you're building up your food, your calories are getting higher, your metabolism is adjusting, right? So it's building up and up and up. So it will get to the point where maybe at one point near the start of your diet, you finish on 1,800 calories. I put you on 2,400. You were holding weight or maybe losing weight. Every single week, or maybe even multiple times a week, I'm bumping up your food, okay? By small increments, right? It might be 100 calories, 50 calories, 200 calories, and predominantly through carbohydrates, or depending where your fats are, where your protein are. That's another thing. There's so many things I can say about it. Oh man, I love this shit so much. God damn, I love it. Hopefully you guys are finding a lot of education out of this, because I know a lot of people do already know this, but some people might not. And then essentially, as I build up the food, the metabolism kind of sets, okay? And then it might be 2,400 calories, holding weight, losing weight. And then I bump up your food, your metabolism builds back up. 2,600 is now your baseline, then 2,800, right? And it will get to the point where your body kind of removes itself out of that starvation zone, where it no longer feels the need to store as much body fat as quickly as possible. Your metabolism's revving again. It's back to where it was before the diet. However, what you have done within that period, because you incrementally increase your calories, you didn't have any stupid jump up, right? You kept it tight for 2 to 4 weeks. It could be longer, could be shorter. It really does depend on the length of the diet and the psychological state of the athlete. But at that point, you've stayed just as lean, you've accumulated no extra body fat, you feel better, everything is great, your metabolism is set, you are no longer going to store fat really, really quickly. Now, that isn't an excuse to bump up your calories even more at like an extreme rate, but you've reduced that psychological fatigue whilst getting, and dieting fatigue, physical fatigue, whilst getting through that reverse, that initial scary phase where you can accumulate a lot of fat quickly. So now you're deep into the improvement phase. You've started the improvement phase, and that chance is very reduced. And guess what? You can keep building up your calories. You can keep building them up whilst keeping a relatively lean body composition in the off season. Body composition, digestion, and appetite are 3 things that I really, really care about in terms of like bumping up food, at least. Obviously, training performance, other metrics are very important too. But those 3 are really ones I look upon. And then it's to the point where you can just carry on building up your food, keep it and maintain a good body composition whilst making sure appetite and digestion are in check. And then what that means is, let's say you go into an off season for 20 weeks, okay? But we've kept you leaner than you've ever been before in the off season. Obviously you need to gain some fat to gain muscle, but I'm never gonna let anyone get really, really fat. And then your food is the highest it's ever been, whilst you're in the leanest position you've probably ever been still, right? And then, so let's say we've got a holiday coming up. Guess what's gonna happen? You're already pretty lean. So 1, that dieting window is already been decreased, whereas you dieted for 20 weeks before. Now, you can probably get away with a 4-week mini cut, 6-week mini cut, whatever it is. But then also, guess what you've done? Your expenditure is pretty low, right? You might be doing no cardio. You might only doing a set baseline of steps compared to what you were doing before. And also, your food is much, much higher, okay? Because you've built it up. You've let your metabolism adaptation get used to it, right? You haven't been dumb about it. You've increased your food based off of training performance needs, muscle growth needs. Obviously, that's where I'm there to support my clients to make sure, what is the rate of gain per week? Are we gaining weight too quickly? But then also assessing the physique. That is way more important than data, like having visual assessments. I need another sip of coffee. But then, right, after that, go into a diet, guess what? Your food is never gonna drop as low as it was before. Well, sometimes it needs to, but 9 times out of 10, it does not drop as low as it needs to, right? Especially for lifestyle dieting, getting ready for holidays or wanting to get a bit leaner. In that initial priming phase or dieting phase, right? Let's say you wanna be lean throughout summer. Cool, quick little 4-6 weeks to get you to that position. Then we can reverse you out of the diet again and then maintain you, where you're gonna be on a lot more food, feel good, right? Or we prime you again, so get you ready for an off season. 4 to 6 weeks, you prime, diet, mini cut, whatever you wanna call it, reverse back into an off season. Now, off the back of that, the reason you get lean, okay, is because of sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity, your body's sensitivity in general to nutrition partitioning, nutritional uptake, training performance, this sensitivity to expenditure, it's sensitivity to a calorie surplus, like all these different things is why it's better to be in a lean position rather than a chunkier position or a fatter position. And that is because the fatter you are, the more body fat you've got, is the less insulin sensitivity you've got. And insulin is basically a hormone your body produces to shuttle food or energy, right? And if your insulin sensitivity, I'm gonna dumb this down really easily so that most people can understand. If your insulin sensitivity is very low, or let's just call it your body sensitivity, because I don't need to use these fancy words, then, and you're quite fat, right? And your sensitivity is low, your body's likelihood of storing that energy as fat is much more increased, okay? Because it doesn't have the demand to put it towards training, right? It just doesn't. And the leaner you are, okay, your body's natural insulin sensitivity response, or just your body's sensitivity, is much, much higher. So that body, that energy that you're putting into your food, carbs, protein, fats, yes, all of them do count, majority carbohydrates, gets shuttled towards muscle recovery, muscle growth, okay, glycogen stores, which in turn reduces the amount of body fat accumulation you're having, right? That is why you can stay leaner during off season if you start lean as well. And the massive benefit from that is you can extend the off season for way longer, be in a surplus for way longer, build up your food, get rid of that sort of yo-yo dieting phase you've been through where you've been starving yourself for the last couple months. You've not gone above 2,200 calories because you always wanted to stay lean, and 1 month you binge, 1 week you binge, and then you go back to a diet, binge, back to a diet, binge, back to a diet, right? Or you've just never gotten lean before, you've never seen the physique development you've wanted to see before, you've not achieved your dream body or what you know you're capable of, or even what I know you're capable of, right? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of background on my thought process when going into clients. But you know, this is where that discipline, that mentality comes in, where you just do it, right? No matter how hard it is, you're not going to change if you just don't do it and you don't commit, right? And this is where you don't see results out of the people that are trying to find shortcuts, that, you know, are committed 5 days out of the week. And then as soon as it comes to the weekend, they're binge drinking or binge eating because it's a weekend and they're not working and they don't have that structure because they just lay in bed all day, right? Keep structure throughout your weekends. Why do you need to give into societal norms of having off-plan meals 24/7, right? 4 days a week, people ordering Chinese. Why? Because that's been told it's normal now. Why is it not normal to give your body healthy food, to be healthy, to look at yourself, be comfortable, and create that as being your normal? Whereas most people coming at the end of diets, right? They want to say, I just want to go back to normal. I just want to be able to eat whatever I want. Well, guess what? Like, if that is the case, yes, most people can manage it, but most of the time, 90% of people can't, and they will just gain a hell of a lot of fat, be uncomfortable again, be depressed again, and just go back to where they were before, right? That is my ramble done on that part. I need to blow my nose again, and then we will carry on. Okay, so I think it's been like roughly 35 minutes into this podcast already. So it's gonna be a bit of a shorter one. There's not much else I need to say. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of an update on myself, and then answer some of the questions I've got. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I've tried making this one a lot more educational than normal, and that's what I'm going to be doing, like going forward with my YouTube. And YouTube as well is my number one biggest like outreach for clients, right? This is where I get most of my inquiries from, is simply because when I'm talking about things, when I'm trying to educate, I can do the long-winded answer, right? Whereas Instagram Reels, TikTok, like I enjoy making them, but I do it more for entertainment. I can't explain how to effectively lose body fat in a 1-minute clip that's designed for someone not to click off and have a hook and a call to action. Like sometimes you can, but I want to be able to articulate myself and give as much information so people can actually learn and utilize it themselves, whether you're getting coached by me or not, just so you've got that education, right? So, I think that's why maybe my YouTube does generate most of my inquiries, which I'm super grateful for, because I get to speak about these things in a bit more depth. But hopefully you find a bit more you find a bit of entertainment out of it as well. It's not too boring for you guys, because this one's never going to get as many views as a full day of eating or something along the lines of that. But the few people that do listen to it, hopefully you get something out of it. And also that shopping video that I posted, it's got a hell of a lot of views, so thank you for the support. That I was not expecting that to happen whatsoever. And so thank you, I appreciate it. We're closing in on like 3,500 subs. I'm almost on 10,000 on TikTok, 4,000 on Instagram. And I've set some pretty big goals for 2026, so we'll see how or what happens there. But quick little update on myself. So 3 days into the deload, I've got bloods on, I think it'll be Monday or Tuesday. I've got like the MediCheck Advanced. You know what, let me get it. You'll have to hear me speaking. I'll actually go grab it. It is the Ultimate Performance Blood Test. So this one here, this is the one I'm using. So I'll be getting that collected from a clinic. That was 235 quid. Pretty expensive if you ask me. However, it's needed when you're enhanced. You need to be smart, and I need my coach to assess everything. And who knows, maybe I'll be doing more PEDs, who bloody knows. But yeah, like, as I've mentioned to you guys before, like, full honesty and transparency, 200 milligrams of testosterone per week. I started on 150 milligrams. I think 5 weeks in, I went up to 200 milligrams. So per week, that's it, right? That's all I'm taking at the moment. So just so you guys can see, I'm always honest and transparent with you guys. Yeah, 3 days into the deload now, weighing 82.6 this morning, which is, you know, almost 3 kilograms down from my heaviest, which is mad. Like, let's see when the last time I weighed 85.5, so I can tell you exactly how long it's been since I dropped the weight. So let's see. Let this load. I'm feeling good though, to be honest with you. I actually am feeling very, very good. So 82.6 today, and I was 85.5 on the 6th of November. So let's say 17 days ago. In 17 days, I've lost 3 kilos, which isn't too bad. I look leaner and I look bigger, so no complaints there. Training, a few changes in training. It was just based off of feedback, where I always tell you guys as well, if you haven't watched any of my videos, communication with your coach is key, because the more you enjoy something, the more likely you are to stick to it and the more sustainable it is. And also that leads back to everything that I was saying. You can make things easier if you're communicative with your coach and if you enjoy things 100%, but then sometimes you will not enjoy everything, right? That's where that uncomfortable feeling comes from it. But yeah, right now, food-wise, I will tell you what I'm eating. So I've been eating rest day food as of this deload, as of Tim's request. So, you know, it's a pretty low amount of food. Probably that's why I've been losing weight. But rest day, 205 protein, 65 fat, 308 carbs, and roughly 2,675 calories according to the sheets. It's probably a bit more if I track it on Macro Factor. And then training day, 221 protein, 55 fat, 411 carb, 3,055 calories training day, which is a little bit more if I once again track it on my chronometer tracking app, because the sheets will always be different. But that's my self-training: push, pull, legs, rest, pushing arms posterior, bringing up my body parts. Really happy with how I'm looking at the moment, actually. And I've got this light as well, so you know, this is how I'll be doing my check-ins. I'll put the blinds down, I'll set up the light, and I'll take my photos like right there. So it works out really well. A lot more definition, you can see in a lot more detail, which is cool. I have just turned 24 years old, so on the 7th of November, I turned 24, went back and visited my family. And oh yeah, also massive update, right? If you only listen to the podcast, which I doubt, I think you listen to the podcast if you watch my YouTube videos, but I've moved to Cardiff, right? I live in Cardiff now. So I've moved into my own flat, a 1-bedroom flat, which is really, really cool. Absolutely love the place. Yeah, phenomenal. Really enjoying everything at the moment. It's just made me focus so much more on the business side of things. And I've said this before, I hate calling it a business. I'm a service provider, it's a service, which I will carry on saying that, but I guess business, more people understand. Really focusing on MJ Performance Coaching at the moment. Actually, as of today, my website has opened up. Like, it's still slightly getting finished, but there's an MJ Performance Coaching website, mjpcoaching.co.uk, which is pretty cool as well. And I'll keep adding to that, making changes. It's just in the early stages of it. Clients are smashing it. Really happy with things like that. Obviously, I had Danny compete where he won the PCA First Timers in London. Got first place there and battled it out in the overall, but then his second show won a natural pro card in the OCB. So yeah, won the overall, won his pro card, my first ever client on stage, and that's a pretty cool result. So Danny, if you listen to this, shout out to you, mate. Got a lot of clients competing next year, which is also exciting. The team just keeps on growing. What else? Has anything else updated for me? No, I'm just chilling. I feel great. Like, life is good right now. I'm living my dream life, if I'm honest with you. I have no complaints. Every single day I wake up excited to do what I do, to be able to open up my computer and see someone excited in a check-in or asking for help who's willing to learn, and seeing physique changes. Like, what else more could I ask for? And you know, I said this in my last video as well. I'm really enjoying my solitude at the moment. I don't know if that's the right word, or I've become very introverted as of recent, where, I still see my friends quite often actually, but, I'm in my flat. Like, I enjoy being by myself. What else more do I need, right? I've got my computer, I've got my food, I've got the gym, I've got my walking pad. I can go out for steps. I can call my family. I can see my friends on the weekends. I love my life. Like, this is exactly what I needed, and it's only allowing me to become a better person. So yeah, living my dream life. And if you would have spoke to me a year ago, fucking hell, I would have dropped down on my knees and begged for myself to be on this, to be in this position. As well as that, Perform had their Perform has been basically Black Friday deals, which have been going really, really good. Had a lot of people a lot of people use my code, send me screenshots. I'm losing my train of thought right now. Bloody hell, the illness is killing me. But so thank you for all of you that have been using my code, sending me screenshots. I appreciate all of you. Actually, on Tuesday, so the 25th of November, between 4 p.m. and midnight, my code, and I'm pretty sure it's only like a couple other people's codes, are going to be 30% off. But I will announce that on my story because it is a different code and you have to go through a specific link. So stay tuned on my Instagram. Follow me on Instagram if you want to keep up to date, because that's the biggest discount they've done. So pretty exciting stuff there. But let's get into some questions, okay? Let me open it up. Where are we? Stories. Oh no, don't tell me they've gone. No, they haven't. Cool. So only got, I think 4 questions, which is fine. And this one, first one from Jack Kinsley Clough, or I think it's Clough, if I'm not mistaken, or Clow. Apologies, Jack. A massive fan of Jack as well. He's an incredible bodybuilder, incredible coach as well. Look up to him in general as a person, just the way he puts himself forward, and he's one of Tim's clients as well. So shout out to Jack if you're watching this, mate. But one thing you learned this year that you didn't expect to learn. Okay, that is a good question. I think one thing this year that I learned that I didn't expect to learn is that, this is actually a good one, is truly no one cares. 100%, that's the thing I learned. My whole life, I've been so convinced that everyone's judging me, that everyone's got their eyes on me when I'm walking out in the street, or if I post something on social media, that every single person that views it is judging me, saying, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? On my TikTok, the decisions I make, starting, coaching, competing. I was always so convinced that every single person is judging me. But I have come to learn that no one cares. Literally no one cares. And that is oftentimes what stops people from chasing their dreams, is that thought process that people are going to judge you and people are going to talk about behind your back. First off, who cares if they do, because you're the one going for your dream, and it's oftentimes just jealousy. But then let's give you an example of one that I realized recently, is sometimes like the way I am on social media, or how I, post about my services on Instagram, where I'm like, I'm grateful to be a coach, or I love the clients I work with. A lot of coaches will post on their stories like, I hate those coaches that say that they're always so grateful. Like, why? First off, why are you saying that? Second off, why do I care? I am grateful for what I do. I love working with the clients I do. I love my job. So guess what? I'm going to say it. But also, like, certain coaching practices, everyone coaches differently. Who cares if you're different than another coach? Or who cares if you post, for me, like if I post a cream of rice video on TikTok, people will take the piss. I don't care. Like, people might find entertainment out of it. They like watching food. Like, who really cares? And that's where I've just started enjoying what I do a hell of a lot more, because I know what I'm doing is for me, and I'm providing entertainment for people. I'm helping people develop themselves. I'm helping them become better individuals. And it doesn't matter what someone says online, or what they're thinking, or what they're saying behind you. First off, you don't want those types of people in your life anyway. The true people will always support you. And yeah, that's one thing I've learned. So hopefully that's a good answer, Jack. I'm not too sure, mate. But yeah, hey ho, who knows? Now going on to the second question. I'll try fire through these pretty quick, because I don't want this podcast to be too long. Next question is from Luke Reed. How are you dealing with any business challenges? So I think there will always be challenges within the business, no matter what, or MJ Performance Coaching. It's inevitable, right? It will never be smooth sailing. But then the way that I approach challenges is that, right, they are inevitable, okay? So rather than letting them stress me out or become an issue, I use it as a learning experience. So the next time it occurs, it won't be as detrimental or it won't affect me as much. But then also, a challenge leads to growth, leads to becoming a better version or developing your service, right? So whenever a challenge does occur, yeah, it's a bit annoying or something happens, but then I can refine things. I can get better at them. I can not allow it to become so much of a challenge next time. And in the meantime, or in return, whatever that challenge was, it will no longer be there. And I'm filling in that gap that created that challenge, if that makes sense there, mate. Now, from one of my clients, Luke, what did you do to develop the physique you have without ever really committing to a bulk? So that's a good question because, you know, whenever I've had bulks, I've never really committed to a long bulk, right? They've been short ones where I've really hated the way I've looked and I've just gone into a dieting phase. But I attribute my success in my bulks or somewhat bulks or in my physique development goal. I definitely could have made more progress, don't get me wrong. But more to one, having a coach there to support me, right? Keep pushing me forward and helping me be right in the right direction. That's as of recent for sure. But then also, I've always been a massive component on making sure my training's always on point. I'm pushing myself. I'm not making excuses. I don't take weeks off at a time. I don't slack on my nutrition. I'm always as consistent as I possibly can be. And that consistency, no matter if you're in a bulk or not, will always add up. And most of the time, like, you can make progress in like maintenance phases and in fat loss phases, even if you don't think you can. You generally can. Obviously, it depends which period and point you can, but like, I'm a living proof of that. And I really sort of dictate or the reason I made so much progress without really committing is, yes, I did have some bulks here and there, right? They were never crazy or what I recommend my clients to do, at least, because I was just a bit too scared of it. But I put that progress down to consistency, if I'm honest with you, just over years. It's been almost 8 years now, so there's going to be bound to have some progress. And obviously a massive part to it is genetics as well. And then final question from another one of my clients, Ed's. How many zero sugar drinks are too much in one day, if that makes any sense? Of course that makes sense, mate. I think too many, you know, one, it's person to person dependent. Someone might be able to get away with 5 and their digestion is fine, but you really never know what's going on behind the scenes. I would say at maximum, I'd like to limit it to 2. That's just a rule of thumb. 2 fizzy drinks per day, ideally like none, right? If you want to be the most optimal you can be. 1 is absolutely fine here and there, but I would say 2 is more than okay. Like, if you feel good, then you're fine, right? If you have a little more one day, that's okay. You know, but especially with things like prep or when you're deep in a diet, these things can affect your digestion a lot, skew data, skew body weight, skew bloating, right? Sleep quality, like all these different things. So that's where you've got to be a little bit careful. But as long as you feel good, and as long as there isn't any detrimental issues to the actual process that you're working towards or the progress, then you're okay. But I would say limit it to 2 if you can. 1 ideally, or 0 to be super ideal. But that is gonna cover episode 5. So hopefully you enjoyed. I'm gonna make some food now because I am getting hungry and I want to undo my blinds, get a bit of natural light in here because this light is blinding me at the moment. So take care. Hopefully you enjoyed. Maybe I'll have a guest on next time. Who knows? That would be pretty cool. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. I'll lead this off on, if you're interested in coaching, click the link in the description to send over a free inquiry and we can get to chatting. Code Mikey, 25% off at Perform if you use the link in the description as well. And appreciate all of you. Let's go. Coming up to the end of 2025 and what an amazing year it's been. Thank you all of you for your amazing support, and let's make 2026 a good one, but there's still time in 2025, so make the most out of it. Don't use it as an excuse to slow down, okay, because you can still achieve a great amount in a short period of time. Okay, so let me find out how to turn this mic off. Catch you soon. I'll try get these out once every week, once every 2 weeks. See you later.